Because you already found out, what's the one thing you'll never duck around with again? Weathermen. That's the one thing I'll never ignore again. March 1st, 2007. I was stationed at Fort Rucker at the time, and we were used to tornado watches. Sirens blaring, TV warnings, everyone shrugging it off. I'd heard it so many times that I was a little numb to it, but then the weatherman's voice changed. He wasn't calm, he wasn't doing the usual forecast filler. He just said, if you're within the sound of my voice, get to your tornado place. Now, it was the urgency that made me pause. For a second, I almost brushed it off. Just another warning, right? But something in his tone got to me. So I told my son to get into the hallway while I went outside to grab our beagles. And that's when I saw it. A monster. A 400-meter wide F4 tornado was roaring straight down our road, chewing up everything in its path. It wasn't off in the distance anymore. It was right there. I ran inside, pulled my son into my lap in the hallway, and grabbed the only protection we had, 2 giant couch cushions. I hunched over him, holding those pillows down with everything I had as the house started to disintegrate around us. The sound was indescribable. It wasn't just wind. It was like a freight train made of broken glass and thunder tearing through our walls. Everything shook. Things slammed into us. And in the chaos, all I could think was, please, just let my boy survive. 2 minutes later, it was over. Silence. My son was completely untouched. Not a scratch. Me? Not so lucky. My shoulder was shattered and dislocated, ligaments and tendons torn apart, my rotator cuff ripped. My back was full of glass, wood splinters, and debris, hundreds of pieces embedded in my skin. I was in so much pain from my shoulder, I didn't even realize I was bleeding everywhere. But he was safe. That was all that mattered. When I looked around, the house was nearly gone. Of a $290,000 home, it cost $273,000 to rebuild. The only thing that kept us alive were those 2 cushions. One of the dogs had a shard of glass stuck in his side. It fell out when he stood up. The cat somehow walked out without a scratch. But the nightmare wasn't over. Our daughter had been at the high school, the one you might have heard about in the news. That storm killed 8 students there and another woman just down the road. It took us nearly 5 hours to find her. She was traumatized, but thank God her injuries were light. Those hours of searching were worse than anything that happened in the storm itself. The recovery was brutal. Insurance covered most of the repairs, but non-recoverable depreciation took a huge bite out of our savings, and my own injuries went deeper than I realized. On top of the shredded shoulder, I'd suffered a second TBI, one piled on top of the one I'd gotten in Iraq years before. At first, I ignored it because my family needed me, but when the headaches and memory problems became too much, I ended up at the Shepherd Center in Atlanta for months, and later went through hyperbaric treatments in New Orleans. And still, even after all of that, we survived. To this day, when my family gathers, we talk about that afternoon like it's woven into our DNA. The sound of the weatherman's voice, the seconds that made the difference between life and death, the way my son sat untouched under those cushions while I bled and broke shielding him. I've been to war. I've seen destruction firsthand. But nothing has burned itself into me like that day. So yeah, you'll never hear me roll my eyes at a weather alert again. When the weatherman says get to your tornado place now, you go.